Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. So, welcome. Can you please, thank you. Can you please mute your microphones, please, just while we're talking? And just to tell you that the meeting is being recorded, and we will take questions at the end. We will allow time for questions and answers.
Mm-hmm.
So, integrating mind, body, and spirit. I wonder what that means. A lot is talked about the mind, the mental state, and mental health. A lot is talked about our physical body and physical fitness and wellness. But how much is talked about fitness, wellness of our spirit? Even less is talked about integrating mind, body, and spirit. So why is it in that order? Mind, body, spirit. Who decided it was that order? I do wonder, because actually I like to put it another way. I like to say spirit, body, and mind. And you might think, well, why does she want to do that? Well, it all starts with our spirit. Before we come to this planet, our spirit already exists in the universe, in the spirit world. And it comes to this planet to occupy a body which is being grown by our mothers for us. So that body grows and our spirit is born with that body. And from that moment forward, our mind starts to develop. So can you see why I've done it that way round? Spirit, body, mind, because that's the order it should be in. So, what is our spirit? Well, it's our energy field. So I'm sort of assuming that everybody knows what an energy field is, but just in case you don't, some people used to call it the aura, but we can now photograph it and measure it electronically, and it's just like a field of electric vibration all around us, above, below, and through us. And that energy field represents our spirit because it contains everything about us. It came from the spirit world with like a blueprint of who we are on it. And as our body carries our spirit through this lifetime, we will add to that blueprint. So our spirit is developing while we are on this planet, living this life in this body. And Mike's going to talk to you a little bit about the body now.
Yes. Well, the body is a vehicle. It's our vehicle. It's like our sat nav, if you like. It's like our car. And our body, this is the vehicle that takes us from one place to another. But also we must realise that the body is also very important, as in all these elements are important, because we have to maintain this body as well. We have to keep it in tip-top condition, a bit like your car. Otherwise, things will start to deteriorate in that way as well. And that'll have a big effect on our lives and our energy.
Right, so you can go on to tell them about the mind, because that's what you like talking about.
And then there's the mind. And don't worry about this. We will ask you questions later, so you can talk to us all. That would be really nice. And the mind, well, the mind controls everything in a funny sort of way. It controls all the functions of the body. Obviously, and what happens to us, our heartbeats and everything else that goes on, it's all controlled by the mind. But also, the mind can be very disturbing in lots of ways because it's programmed. You know, we're programmed, our minds are programmed when we come from the spirit world. When we come into this life, we have everything programmed into us, a bit like software on a computer. Everything should be in there, all programmed. The problem with that is that programming with life, and what happens to us throughout our years in this life, things change and they're not quite what we expected them to be, or they might differ, or something might happen to you for you to want to change that programming. Our parents, for example, will bring us in and bring us forward in the world and in our lives and try to do what's best for us. But of course, not forgetting that it's them as well. So they are giving us their knowledge their program, but it might not actually suit us. So we might need to change our programming. And we are allowed to change our programming. It is our choice if you wish to do that.
And choice is a really important word in our lives, because we all have choice. We have choices to make, and we can do it at any time. And the choices can be entirely our choice. But we have this programming, as Mike said, from the past, from our upbringing, that affects our choices, and the mind carries that through. So going back to the spirit or the energy field, that is a really important part, because that is the part that is eternal. It came from the spirit world and it will go back there. So your energy or your spirit character will never change, and it will never die. So the energy field that is around you affects everything about you in this lifetime of yours. Everything that happens to us makes a mark on the energy, if you like. And the energy in its own way then affects the physical body through 7 energy centers called chakras. And from the little bit of experience we've had with people in Dubai, it does seem that most of you know about chakras. So these are the energy centers running from the top of the head to the base of the spine. Each chakra has 2 jobs. One is energetic and one is physical protection. And I'll come back to that in a minute and give you an example of it. But running out from the chakra pile, as I call it, from the top of the head to the base of the spine, there are energy lines, and they're a bit like roads. So I don't know what you've got in Dubai, but here we have motorways, we have A roads, we have B roads. So the chakra pile is like the motorway of your body. The A roads, the meridians, run out from it, and from those lines run myriad tiny little other lines of energy called nadis. Now, I once saw an engraving, it was an ancient Indian engraving of a physical body with an energy field around it, and it was absolutely covered in nadis and meridians with the central chakra pile going down the middle. Now, the chakras we have known about, I think it was first written about 800, 1200 BC, something like that. And it has been carried down through the Eastern traditions ever since. So Western, Middle Eastern people are just sort of kind of getting to know about this. We personally feel it should be taught in school so that children understand the effects. But just going back to the chakras, let's just take the throat chakra as an example. So the energetic job of the throat chakra is to get you to fully express your feelings. Not your opinions, that's much easier. Your actual feelings. And so many people hold back on that. So that chakra is going to be busy trying to get the flow going because there's blockages in there. It will therefore neglect its physical job, which is protecting the ears, nose, throat, thyroid, breathing, sinuses, all those things. Those parts of the physical body will be adversely affected in the end if that energetic center, the chakra, the throat chakra, is not flowing freely. And the chakra will always put the energetic job first because it knows that the energy field will survive the physical death. So that's just one example, but if you do a little bit of research on chakras, you will find they're all integrated with jobs to do in the physical body. But lying behind each chakra is a major nerve group of the body. And so anything that comes in through your energy field goes into your chakras, into your nervous system, and it ends up in the brain, giving impressions to the brain. So that is all integrated. I work a lot with that when I do my readings. I work a lot with the effects of the energy on my chakras, giving me impressions in my brain of what I want to say. Now, as we go through our everyday lives, life doesn't always treat us well. Things happen to us. We are impacted with things. Something changes in our lives. Somebody says something horrible. We see something on the news. It has an impact on our energy. It damages us. Now, an example of this is if somebody's bereaved, and we take a photograph, an aura or a Kirlian camera photo of the energy field, the colour of that energy field for the person who's bereaved would be grey. So you're perhaps beginning to get the idea that the energy field needs care for its health. So how do we give it that care? Well, there's one word that covers it, or two actually, it's energetic healing. That will go in and balance the unbalanced chakras, restore the balance, but only temporarily, because every day, the next day, it's all going to happen over again. So it's continual maintenance, if you like. So that's a little bit about our energy field, our spirit. And Mike's going to talk to you about the body.
So the body, here we are again. This wonderful body that we've got. I'm sure you all like yours as well. It's
Sometimes.
yeah, I know. It's great because we have these things called senses. We actually have 6 of them in the physical side, 6 physical senses. And this is our sat nav. This is what we use. It's a little bit like, do you know, like sometimes cats or dogs, or mainly cats, they go out in the morning and they, oh, what's going on? And their whiskers have got all these senses, and they smell and they can see and they know something's over there, and they're really, you know, attuned to this. And this is what we are. We're attuned to our senses. If hopefully, anyway, you should all be. And this, everything that comes in through the senses, all of them, goes in through the nervous system, up through the chakras, in through the nervous system, and up to the brain, and gives you that impression. So again, if I don't know, I don't have a sense of smell, which is quite nice sometimes, but if I went out into a kitchen, say somewhere, and I had a sense of smell, and I managed to smell some really lovely cooking, that would come in through my senses, in through the chakra system, up through the nervous system, into the brain, and would give me an impression, that's spaghetti bolognese or whatever it is. You see, and this is how this works. So let's just take one of them for a start at this moment in time. Let's just take sight for a start. How many people see, or how many people really look? Is there a difference between seeing and looking? Well, there is actually, because a lot of us look at things, you know, but do we really see them? You know, sometimes people might say, oh yeah, there's a nice flower over there, but do they really look at it? They just see it. We live in a tiny little village with hardly any traffic or anything else, and it's only about 300 people that live here. A lot of people hurtle through this village in their cars, and they say, oh, I've been to Varian. You might have been to Varian, but you haven't seen it. And that's the difference. We need to use our senses a lot more than we actually do. And you will find that life becomes a lot more special when you do.
There's actually another point to make about sight. The impressions through the eye go through the optic nerve to the brain, but our emotions can be affected by this. So particularly at the moment, I mean, we've stopped watching the news in the UK because it's so awful and there's nothing we can do about it. And it was really upsetting us and making us close down a bit. So now we limit it. We don't watch it as often. But that vision or those sounds are impacting within us and damaging our energy. Now, I want to move on to hearing now. So I don't know if you in Dubai are used to the expression, I hear what you say. Now, in the UK, people say that a lot. And what it means really is they are hearing what you say, but they're actually not listening. Their mind is doing something else. So how many people actually give full attention to what somebody else is saying? Sometimes you can tell by looking at people. You know from their eyes that they're actually, it looks as if they're listening to you, but their eyes tell you they're not. They're doing something else. They're making their shopping list or whatever it is they're doing. They are not listening to you and what you have to say. Now, in that way, human beings miss a lot of information. We need to use our ears to listen carefully. Now, another aspect of that is music. When the vibration of music comes into our ears, it affects our whole system, not just our body through the brain, but also our energy. So I'm sure you're familiar with that fact that some music will calm you down. Some music will energize you. There's all kinds of effects, but that is all through the ear, because the auditory nerve carries the vibration of the sound to your brain and has an effect. So perhaps you're beginning to get the impression of how important the senses are and the nervous system is. This is how our sat-nav of life works. Little alarm bells ring thanks to our senses. So what about the sense of touch?
Well, there's another nice one. We like the sense of touch because that has a big effect on us, especially in the sort of industries that we're all in here. Touch, massages, that sort of thing is really quite nice, obviously. There are many little nerves in your fingertips and in your hands, and what happens is when you touch somebody nicely, or you do massage or whatever, it goes into that sense, up through the nervous system, up to the brain, and has an impression. Again, it's like if you picked up a hot plate that was really hot, how quickly do you drop that plate? Very, very quickly, instantly, like that, because it's too hot, okay? But what's actually happening, it's the tiny little nerve endings in your fingers pick up that hot plate, right? It sends a message up through the nervous system, up to the brain that says, well, this is a little bit hot. I think you ought to put it down quite quickly. Well, something like that anyway. And then that sends another message through the nervous system to the fingertips to say, drop that plate now. And that's what you do. It's taken me, I don't know, a few seconds to say that. This happens in a millisecond, you know, but this is what it's like. Again, it's like somebody who barges into you and doesn't say sorry. That has a big effect on you, big effect on your system, because, and then an energetic effect as well, because you feel really hurt and you want to go, why did you do that to me? You know, you feel, I don't know, quite painful. It's not nice. But if somebody just touched your arm like that and said, oh, I'm really sorry, I didn't mean to do that, please accept my apologies, makes you feel nice, doesn't it? So again, the senses can make you energetically feel nice, energetically feel bad, or whatever. So does that make sense to you? Makes sense. See, we always use that word a lot, but
yes,
what's it really
sensible.
mean?
So we're doing a bit of a whistle-stop tour of the senses, because they are so important for our body, because our body is going to have disasters if we don't use our senses. So very quickly going to smell, which I'm going to talk about, because Mike literally has no sense of smell, thanks to something that happened earlier in his life.
That was a virus as well.
No, it's not. So for me, if I'm walking around a supermarket and they're baking bread in there, my mouth is going to start watering, because that smell, the molecules of the hot bread has gone up into my nose, up right to the top of my nose, and that's going to go to the olfactory nerve, which is this, I have difficulty saying that word, which takes the sense of the smell to my brain, which interprets it. That in turn will send a signal to my taste buds and my salivary glands, and my mouth will start watering, because the process of digestion has started all through my sense of smell. Smell is also important for memory. So sometimes if we do this physically with people, this workshop, we will get them to smell something. And the herb rosemary, usually in this country, reminds people of their grandmother's roasting lamb on a Sunday. It has that ability to bring things back. And just as a side issue here, when I do my clairvoyant mediumship with the spirit world, sometimes they give me smell through my clairolfactiance, and it will be a clue to them. Maybe I'm going to smell tobacco smoke and this man smokes cigars. You know, it's that kind of thing. It's very useful. So that, I just mentioned taste. Well, we have a lot of taste buds on the surface of our tongue, which pick up molecules from the food we're eating and carry that through the nervous system to the brain. So we actually know what we're eating. And I'm not going to do this fully now, but there are different parts of the tongue for different kinds of food, including poison. So that is how we kind of sense that we shouldn't be eating something. It's a protective thing. So that's your sense of taste. And there is a lovely expression in England that says, you have a taste for life. And that means you are truly enjoying the input of all your senses. It's just a taste for life. But there is another element, because that all leads into the sixth sense, which is your subject.
Sixth sense, intuition.
Yes.
Well, it's intuition. It's gut instinct, if you like. It's you just know. You can't smell it, you can't taste it, you can't feel it, whatever. But you just know. And sometimes you know that, and there's a feeling you might get where you think, I need to phone so and so because I got a funny feeling. I just don't know what it is, but I really need to phone them. And then when you phone, you feel that you realise that that person's not been well, whatever's happened. But you can't put your finger on it almost, but you actually know that that's what you've got to do. And we get a lot of that within the mediumship and the way we work in mediumship and demonstrations. It's just a sense of knowing. We can't use our senses sometimes, but we use that one most of all. And it's probably one of the hardest in one way, but one of the easiest in another. It's just a lovely sense to use because you just know things. It's like if you meet somebody, you know whether you're going to like them or not. You know instantly there's something not quite right with you or whatever. And it's just that gut instinct. It comes into this solar plexus area and up to the brain, and you just know and you feel it, and it's lovely.
And there is a clair sense that for the spirit world that equates to that, which is clair knowing or clair cognizance. I use that one quite a lot, or they use it with me, and I just know things about a spirit person. I know how they would move. I know how they would stand or sit. It's that lovely knowing. So this is also about care of these aspects of mind, body, and spirit. So we mentioned that healing works as a spirit. So what about the senses? Well, time doesn't permit us to go through all of them. With the eyes, do rest them. Please try not to stare at screens all day, because the screen is like little pulsating buzzes of energy, and your eyes are processing those little squiggles of energy the whole time. I think they're called pixels.
Yeah.
See, that's not my technical knowledge, but your brain's got to process all of that. So do give your eyes something restful to look at. We're very lucky where we live here. We are surrounded by incredible, beautiful countryside and lovely seas. So our eyes are feasting on that. But when we go to towns and cities, when we travel, it's different. We get tired more easily, more quickly. So just be conscious of what you're giving your eyes to look at, and be sure, this sounds really old-fashioned, but go to the optician regularly. Make sure you're actually caring for them. The same goes for the ears. Well, you wouldn't get that.
I know. Well, I'm supposed to wear hearing aids, you see. Got a slight bit of hearing problem there, but I tend not to wear them because I don't know. I find them difficult and I'm not got used to it. But realistically, I mean, I agree. Realistically, what I should be doing is just putting them on for a little while, a small amount of time each day, so that my brain actually gets used to them. Because what's happening at the moment is it's just like a microphone, and it's a really loud microphone. So if I switch on the light, it's really, but I'm not allowing my brain to get used to it. And that's what we need to do. Okay, and then we'll talk about the mind now, if you like. We've said all about our senses, our body, our spirit, everything's coming into this energy field, going into your chakras, up through the nervous system and up to your brain, your mind. Your poor old brain never gets a chance to switch off. You know, if you could switch your brain off, your mind off, if you like, not your brain, but your actual mind off, it wouldn't kill you, believe it or not, because it would still do its normal functions. But what it would allow to happen is you give your mind a bit of a rest, if you like, so it wasn't too busy. And you'd also give your mind a chance to listen properly, see properly, touch properly, smell properly, and all these other things. Because what happens with all the bombardment, everything, it's people around us, it's us talking, whatever it is all one big mishmash. It's all going up to the brain together, all going up to the mind together. And the mind has a really awkward job trying to separate every little bit. It does a marvelous job. It's absolutely fantastic. But wouldn't it be nice sometimes to let it have a rest? And we try to do that by sleeping. But what happens normally when we go to sleep for most people is when they sleep, they are still mind active. So their brain's very, very active. So when they go to sleep, what usually happens is they have disturbed sleep. So, and they have dreams, lots and lots of dreams or whatever it is. And they wake up a bit early and then they can't sleep. And then they decide they read a book, which is probably not good for you either, because it's making your mind still work and active. So all these things we need to do. So we need to try to lower our brain waves so that our mind gets a bit of a rest, so that when we do sleep, we get undisturbed sleep. And it doesn't matter whether it's 2 hours, 10 hours, whatever it is, it's undisturbed and it's nice, and it gives our brain a chance to relax. So we need to care for our brain. And the only way to care for that realistically is to sit and be. Because as Sandi says, we're human beings, not human doings. Okay? So we need to do that nice little bit of meditation. We like to call it sitting. Meditation's a lovely word, but for a lot of people, it can be, I've got to meditate now. I've got to do this for half an hour. And right, okay. And then you sit down, and then you're sort of panicking already. Thoughts are coming in their head, and they go, and then they're putting up a slight barrier. So we like to call it sitting. So you're just sitting and being. You can go off on one, do whatever you like. And it's really nice. And that gives you a chance to lower those brain waves and improve your mind state, because this is what we need to do.
To just give it a rest. So we have covered now in a little bit of detail the spirit, the body, the mind. So mind, body, spirit. But how do we integrate them holistically? So we've got separate issues at the moment. So in our day-to-day life, how on earth are we going to integrate those things holistically so it all works for us? And we're not overtaxing them, we're not overtiring them, but we just feel nice. So how are we going to do that? Well, there's only one answer. We have to connect with ourselves. We have to start developing awareness. Now, this is a very busy world we live in, where you are especially. We're beginning to realize this after just a week of working with you. We're getting an impression of what Dubai is like. It's fast and it's glossy and it's highly powered and driven. And that's really, really high speed. So awareness there is more difficult. It's bad enough in England, but we need to sort of stop a little bit and make ourselves aware of what is going on. So through the senses, because that's easy because we use those all the time. If you could familiarize yourself with your chakras, you would actually get familiar with how they feel and what they are providing for you. And that's quite powerful if you can control your chakras. And then the mind will start becoming aware of the tricks your mind can play. Your mind is programmed by your childhood, your education, your life, your partners, and it has a pattern of thinking. And those thoughts are manufactured. So maybe rely more on your feelings, but know the difference. Lots of people say all the time, I think this, I think that, I think that. How many people say I feel? And if they do they realize what they mean? Because our feelings are the truth, our thoughts are manufactured. We need to know the difference. That is awareness. So we need to be aware of mental input, physical input, energetic, spiritual input. And by the way, spiritual isn't a religious word. A lot of people think it is. It is of our spirit, of our energy, of the real sense of us. So how are we going to do this? How are we going to connect and become aware? And you have to start with basics, actually. It's almost too easy. So I'm sure all of you, a lot of times in the day, say to other people, how are you? We do here in this country. And here we get two answers primarily. So people say, oh, I'm fine. I'm okay.
I'm good.
Now, it doesn't mean, oh yeah, I'm good. I forgot that one. It probably doesn't mean much. But how often do you ask yourselves how you are? How often do you say to yourself, how am I? How am I feeling? Check in with yourself several times a day, like you ask other people several times a day. How are you? It's really good practice. So you need to ask yourself, how am I feeling physically? How am I feeling mentally? How is my mind? And how am I feeling energetically, emotionally? What's going on there? And hopefully as you get more of an awareness of your energy field and its input, you'll get better at that bit. So just for a minute, why don't you just try it? Why don't you just sit for a minute and ask yourself, first of all, how am I feeling physically? Check your body over. And then how am I feeling mentally? Just take note of what's coming in. Just sense it. And then perhaps if you're not used to the energy, but just ask yourself, how am I feeling emotionally? Check yourself over. Now, if this was a physical workshop, I'd be making you write all this down because I'm good at doing that. I make people work. You're lucky because you're removed from me. But I would then say to you, look, have a look at your answers because that's how you are at this moment in time. And the essence of this is you need to check in with yourself a lot during the day. See how you're doing. See what's affecting you. And realize that you've got all these different parts that make up you. Do it regularly every day. Take care of all those 3 elements, and I'll put them in the traditional order, mind, body, and spirit, because those 3 make up the whole. It is you. So think about taking care of yourself. And usually that's written as one word, yourself. We always write it as 2, yourself. Because we believe the self is too important a word to be separated, or to be joined up rather, to something else. So hopefully we've given you an impression of the integration of mind, body and spirit, or spirit, body, mind, if we were going to reverse it and put it in my order, which I'm not saying is right, but it's mine. Hopefully we've given you that impression. So now we will take questions.
So if you want to switch your microphones on now,
microphones on,
and you want to ask us questions,
raise your hand. We're not,
whatever you.
Yeah, raise your hand. Just let us know that you'd like to ask a question, or start speaking because a little light will come on around your name. Don't be shy, by the way, because a question asked and answered is a lesson for everybody. So, who's got a question for us?
If you don't mind, I do.
Okay.
Oh no, we don't mind at all. We'd love it. You'll start everybody. You'll kick everybody else off, Vivian.
There was some beeping, so I didn't really get it. What is it exactly that you do to try and integrate that 3 part of you that makes up you?
Right. You need to be aware of those 3 parts of you. So you need to be aware that you have a physical body. You have senses which feed the physical body with information. You have a mind, and you have a spirit and energy. And by being aware of those 3 within yourself, around yourself, and you can't, if you've never done this before, you're not going to do it straight away. You need to practice. It's like anything else, we need to practice. But
how would that practice look like?
You just keep every day, and I said, you ask yourself, how am I feeling? Morning, noon and evening, if you like. How am I feeling physically? Go over your body and your mind, check it over. How's your back? How are your legs? That kind of thing. You know, have you got a pain somewhere? Have you got a discomfort somewhere? Are you a bit hot? You're a bit cold? All of these things to do with your body, and your senses are feeding you that information. So then ask yourself how your mind is. Now, most people's minds are a bit chaotic. It just, Mike calls it a mind full of mess. It's the opposite of mindfulness, but it's a mind full of mess because we are paying attention to so many things in this world that it gets messy. So just be aware of what your mind is doing. Be aware of what your mind is telling you. Be aware of what your mind is making you say. And then energetically, emotionally, that's a little bit harder because most people don't bother. But start asking yourself, how do I feel? How do I feel this morning? Am I happy? Am I sad? How are you? It takes practice because it's a bit strange if you don't do this normally. It's sort of day on day, you'll get used to it. And then you'll get the impression of how you are holistically, which integrates the mind, the body, and the spirit. We've already established they are linked physiologically. So the senses are linked by the nervous system to the brain. The chakras of the energy system are linked to the brain. It's all linked to the brain. We are all integrated. We just don't realize it. But what we do for our energy system and our chakras with healing will affect the health of our body. It's like what we eat affects how we feel, doesn't it? we eat a load of junk food, we're going to feel a bit heavy and dull and sleepy. We eat something, I personally, if I eat a lovely vegetable or casserole or stew, I feel light and energetic. If I was to go to McDonald's and eat a meal from there, I feel exactly the opposite. So I'm always noticing how things make me feel.
And that goes with life, doesn't it? Because if you know how you're feeling in the morning, mentally, physically and emotionally, and then by lunchtime you scan yourself again and you're feeling a lot different, you can look at that and you can say to yourself, well, what or who's changed that? Why do I feel like this now but I didn't feel like that this morning? So you might be able to do something about it, like choose a different, say if it was a journey to work and you thought, I'm absolutely great this morning, I felt wonderful. By the time I got to work, I felt really bad because the journey was awful. Maybe you can change your journey. Maybe you can't. Maybe it's something you can live with, but at least you know what's caused that. If it's
and maybe this is another thing you can do with the mind. You can take a different approach. So if you're stuck in a traffic jam, that's hideous and it makes us a bit impatient and frustrated. How about changing how you feel? Is it actually, well, at least I'm still. Just perhaps do a light little meditative state. Let yourself truly relax as you're sat there. And just say, well, actually, this is okay. This is making me still for a while. Always take a positive view of something that feels negative. Does that help, that answer?
Vivian?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay.
That's okay. So
yeah, and don't forget, there's always positives. You can always make a positive out of a negative. And I know this coronavirus is awful for many, many reasons. But sometimes it has a little bit of positivity, as in we've been able to look at our lives a bit differently. And I think we're going to go on looking at our lives differently. People are much nicer. We've seen people walk past our house here. We didn't know them and we didn't realise they lived in the village. And it's only because they rush around or they go to work or whatever they do, we don't actually see them. Now we're seeing them. They're all saying good morning. It's actually quite nice. So there are sort of little bits that you can do with that, okay?
Always try and take a positive view of a negative. It's not always easy, and we found this with this virus situation. We work in 5 major health resorts in the UK, and as soon as shutdown started, lock-in started, then they all closed. They are literally huge houses, huge places, just finished. So we sat around for 2 or 3 weeks and did not a lot and thought, this is great, we can do what we want. And then we got the call from Illuminations. We talked to them. And lo and behold, here we are doing this with you, and we love it.
Yeah, and this is lovely for you as well.
Hopefully,
yeah.
Don't take it for
granted. But it's nice because again, we can talk to people in different ways than we've known before. So it's good.
Right.
Any other questions?
Anybody else? Now Vivian's been brave enough. Has somebody else got a question?
Yep. There you go.
May.
Okay,
Hello, May.
good. Hello.
May, don't you?
That's all right.
Yeah, is it the wrong May? Okay.
Okay.
Go on, May.
I can see your aura is too much bright than your husband.
Say again. You can see my aura is
Very bright.
Ah.
Brighter
compared to
than
my
your
husband. That's probably
husband.
because he drinks more than me. No, we do different kind of work. So, and I have done the work for far longer than he has.
Okay, I have a question. How
Yes.
many spirit a human has?
How many spirits does a human have? That's a really interesting question. The answer to that is 1. We only have 1 spirit, but that 1 spirit manifests in different forms in many, many, many lifetimes.
Okay.
And
yeah.
we didn't ask him to do this. We were teaching him in a workshop in Devon, and this man suddenly looked at Mike and said, he was moving his hands in a certain way, and he said, you've done that before. So we said, yeah, really? And he said, yes, millions of years ago. What did he say you were?
2 million years ago, he said, I came from the
Some-
planet. I came from a planet in the Andromeda galaxy, and he explained what I looked like, and he said, and he showed us certain, and all the things that I do now, the characteristics, he'd already said that I did that before. It's amazing.
Yeah, so it's, you know, we only have 1 spirit, and that spirit carries us through eternity, which is what I said at the beginning. But many, many lifetimes playing many different characters built that spirit. So all the good deeds make the spirit better. All the bad deeds make it not so good. So I think of it like a bank account, debits and credits. And I don't want to go back overdrawn, so I'm trying to get more credits than debits.
Trying to be nice.
Yeah, trying to be nice. Yeah.
So
Okay, thank you so
Does that
much.
help?
Yeah, thank you so much.
That's all right, our pleasure. So, somebody else.
Anyone else?
Anybody else got a question?
Actually, if you don't mind, I will have one more, but this may be a little bit of different topic, but
Okay.
that we are now at the spirits. If I'm curious of your opinion or your input on spirits of different origin.
You mean
So
different
not-
nationalities?
No, origin.
You mean ET
Soul.
type?
Yes.
Okay, so yes. Yeah. Okay, well.
That's your subject.
Again, some things we can prove. So we can prove to you there's no death beyond that of the physical body by doing the clairvoyance readings that Sandi does, etc., etc. Cannot actually prove to you about other planets and ETs, because I haven't quite seen one myself yet, but I honestly believe there are. I believe this is the way we see this planet is called the Marshes, and it's a learning planet, and it's one of the densest, hardest planets to be on. There are a lot of other, what I call spirits, that are intelligent beings as well, same as we are, but they chose to go to another realm, another planet, and maybe they're using, a bit like Atlantis, where they was using vibrations to do different things, mind controls, telepathic, being able to fly, teleporting, all this sort of thing. I'm sure it goes on, but I can't actually prove that to you. I personally believe that that would be right. Because again, if you think about people like indigenous peoples, like the Aborigines and peoples like yourselves, many, many years ago, we all had these abilities. They've got their ancestors around them all the time. They have certain abilities of knowing things and know how to do, and telepathic, that we've sort of lost in the modern world today, if you like. So I believe, yes, personally.
Yes, and I believe that when we go back to the spirit world and we've had a little rest and a little play around there, if we want to, we can choose another life. But I believe we can choose another life on another planet in another physical form. So it doesn't have to be this form.
And with clairvoyance, because you mentioned that both of you or either of you were clairvoyant, like you're doing as practice. Would you be able to trace it back? If I am sure of something, so would you be able to trace it back? Would you be able to catch on it?
Right. Yeah. It would be me that does, I do the actual full one-to-one readings. Mike does his deep energy healing with a psychic reading at the end. It would be me that would pick up on that, but I don't do past lives. Now, there are mediums who do past lives as a specialty. I don't. I just focus on the lifetime that people are in at the moment, because I want to help people live their lives comfortably here. But I find it fascinating when people tell me what I've done and who I've been, and I think, really? And I'll really do that? And I was that thing Mike was talking about with the past life with him, with his spaceship and flying around Andromeda or whatever it was. Apparently, I used to heal planets at the same time with him. And this man who was reading us, he drew a picture of me, and I said, oh, I like my hair. Because he was drawing these great big loops, like plaits. And I thought, that's really nice. And he said, no, he said, that's not your hair. Those are your ears. I said, really, they're huge? And he said, yes. He said, you've had incredible hearing. Now, the funny thing about that is my children used to call me radar ears when they were small, because I hear everything.
She does, too. I've only got a whisper down here and she knows. So it's quite good.
So, yeah, it does impact on this life. And there are people who could actually find your past lives if you wanted.
And with spirit, obviously, Sandi, you prove that. Because she give you enough evidence for you to say, I know who that is. If you say, I think I know, it's not good enough. She has to give more evidence until you actually know who it is. But that's
actually, I can see one of our ex-students on this lot. I can see Chrissy Davies. So hi, Chrissy. And Chrissy will know very well that I always say one more piece of evidence till we know who the spirit person is. So I'm very particular about identifying it. So I think it's Chrissy. Yes, right. Anyway, going back, does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay.
That's quite all right. So anybody else? Who's going to be brave? And please don't think you'll sound silly, because I say a question asked and answered is a lesson for everybody. And there are a lot of people sitting there thinking, I wish I had the nerve to do that. So be brave. Anything? No. Okay. Well, obviously we've sort of run them out of questions. So what we thought we'd do, because we have a few minutes left, we mentioned healing as the care of the spirit, and we know it's this, our spirit that is eternal, from spirit through this lifetime back to spirit, on and on eternally. And the care of that is meditation and healing. So we're not doing meditation here, but healing. We're going to do a little bit of self-healing. Because although it's always nice to receive a treatment from somebody else, I mean, I'm a Reiki master and I self-heal every day, but I love it if Mike gives me a full deep energy healing, because it's just, I just really, really enjoy it. But we can all heal ourselves. You don't have to be a Reiki master or a deep energy trance healer. You have the healing power within your hands. So if you would like to, I would suggest that you place one hand in the middle of your chest area and one hand on your solar plexus, which is like the middle of your ribs, more or less. If you'd like to try that. And then shut your eyes and ask whatever power you believe is greater than you to send the healing energy of the universe to you, through you, for you. And just for a couple of minutes, and while you're doing that, Mike will send some deep energy healing to contribute to the healing energy that will build. If you want to direct a little bit out to the world because of the state it's in, that's fine too. We can do that. So we'll just do it a couple of minutes. So just try it. Shut your eyes, hands on. Ask for the energy to flow, to heal you and maybe the world as well. So just very gently become aware of my voice. I hope that was a nice experience for you. Please know that you can do that anytime for you. Don't think it's selfish. You need to look after yourself first. I took the opportunity to grab a bit of that because we've had a stressful day with technology here today. We've been doing appointments all day and we've had technical problems all day. So it's been a bit tricky. So I gave myself a bit because I was feeling a bit frazzled. So I do hope that you have been able to benefit from that and you will take something from this into your lives to make your lives more integrated, mind, body and spirit, spirit, body, mind, whichever way you want to look at it. And we wish you well on your life journeys.
Thank you.
And at this terrible time we're in now, please be safe. Please be well.
Yes,
thank you for the lovely chat.
That's all right. When we come to Dubai, we want to see you all. You see.
Yes, when the craziness is over, we are going to come out there.
Okay. Thank you.
So thank you very much for being with us.
Okay.
And God bless you all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.